So first we're going to look at how to compare and order fractions, and these are the steps that you will use to compare and order two or more fractions. And it is on page 130 on your book, so you always can go back and reference it if you forget the steps. Or you could take a picture so that you know exactly where it is in your photos. So when you want to compare and order fractions, you are going to first find the least common denominator of the fractions. We will talk more about that when I show you some examples. And that is finding the least common multiple of the denominators, the smallest number that they both go into. Then you write equivalent fraction for each fraction using that least common denominator, and then you compare the numerators to see which one is bigger. So we're going to be using these things called inequalities. And that means when you fill in the greater than, less than, or the equal sign. And remember that the mouth of the sign, so if you look at this one, which is less than, you want the mouth to open up to the bigger one. So like if I had 5 and 6, I know that 6 is bigger, so my mouth would have to open up to the 6. I think about it as the Pac-Man wants the bigger meal, or the alligator wants the bigger meal. Okay, so let's look at this example. We have 5/8 and we have 7/12. Usually I like to look at them and see, is any of them bigger than a half or not bigger than a half? And they both are. So we need to figure out which one is the bigger one. And to do that, we're going to look at that first step again. It says find the least common denominator, the least common multiple of the denominators. So let's look at our denominators. We have an 8 and we have a 12. So we want to find out what is the least common multiple of those two numbers. So first I'm going to start by looking at the 8s. And if I count by 8s, I know it goes 8, and I can use my multiplication chart for this too. And then 16, and then 24, and 32, and 40. I'm going to stop there and see if that's enough. All right, then I'm going to do my 12s. 12, 24, 36, 48. Do you notice a number that they both have as a multiple? I notice that they both have a 24. So we are going to make equivalent fractions with the denominator of 24. We're going to turn them both into 24ths so that we can compare them better. If I want to get from 12 to 24, I need to multiply by 2. And remember, you have to do the same thing to the top of the fraction. 7 times 2 is 14. Now I'm going to look over on this side. To get from 8 to 24, let's see, I'll count my 8, 16, 24. That's a times 3. And I'll do the same thing to the top. 5 times 3 is 15. So if I look at my numerators, I have a 15 and I have a 14. And I know that 15 is bigger than 14. So this one on the left is greater than the one on the right. Let's look at some more examples. These are got it problems in your book on page 130. So if you want to try along with me, I highly encourage you to do that. Pause the video if you ever need to. All right, so in the example A, we have 2/3 and we have 4/9. So I'm going to start by thinking about the multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9. Oh, 9, that's the same as my other denominator. So I'm going to change this one on the left to turn into 9ths. And then I can compare them because they'll have the same denominator. To get from 3 to 9, I need to multiply this by 3. So I'll have to do the same thing to the top. 2 times 3 is 6. So on the left, I have 6/9, and on the right, I have 4/9. And I know that 6 is bigger than 4, so this one is going to be greater. All right, let's do the next one, B. We have the number 12 and the number 8 again. Well, I remember from the last example, that the least common denominator of those two numbers was 24. So I know right now that I can change them to 24. To get from 12 to 24, I'm doubling or multiplying by 2. So I need to multiply by 2 in the top and the bottom. And 5 times 2 is 10. To get from 8 to 24, I count 8, 16, 24. That's times 3 on the top and the bottom. And 7 times 3 is 21. Well, 21 is a lot bigger than 10, so I know that 21 is greater. You also might have been able to solve this one earlier, because you might notice that 5/12, the number 5/12, that's less than 1/2. Half of 12 would be 6. 7/12 is more than 1/2. So that's another trick that you can use other than finding the least common denominator. All right, let's look at this last one. 1/6. So I'm going to start by listing the multiples of 6. So 6, 12, 18. Oh, 18. That's the same as my other denominator. So I'm going to change this one on the left to turn into 18ths. Well, I counted 1, 2, 3 sixes. So that's going to be a times 3. And I need to do the same thing to the top. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, now I have 3 over 18 and I have 5 over 18. And 5 is bigger than 3. So the 5/18 is greater than the 3/18.